I'm sure there are questions from the floor for any or all of these people, and I think maybe a place to start was, didn't Jennifer have a question that we held over from this morning? Is she still here? No? Okay. So we've got table 12 next, followed by 11 and 18 on deck. Thanks. And 21. 12 is...
It's 21, I think.
Oh. Did 12 have a question? No, so it's 21.
The dyslexics.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Bill Wareham with the David Suzuki Foundation. I have to go right after my comment because I have to catch a ferry, but I wanted to thank the organizers and everyone in First Nations community and Department of Fisheries and Oceans who pulled this together. It's great. Congratulations. And I really want to thank the people in DFO all the way, including Ottawa, who have really been collaborative with us, and I thank you for the engagement on that. I know when David says sometimes Ottawa doesn't care, it's not about the people I know and that we all know in DFO who have really worked hard to pull this together. And my question is about that point that I know David is talking about Ottawa in the context of political government, and one of our big challenges is capacity. Looking to December or fall of 2010 feels like a long ways away, and I really want to maintain the momentum and have a lot of opportunity to create the dialogue in whatever form, in whatever streams. And I appreciate hearing a little bit more about how you see some of that dialogue continuing, because without that, it can easily fade. And on the capacity issue, the environmental groups, including Suzuki Foundation, have put together a website called healthyoceans.ca, and I would encourage you to go there if you think this initiative needs more capacity, because it has a letter that you can send to some of our honorable politicians asking them to invest more financial capital into this issue. And I really think it's necessary if we all want this to happen faster, better. We can really use more capacity in the form of money. So I encourage you to visit that site if you're interested in, like I said, if you got comments on how we can keep the dialogue going, I'd appreciate it. Thanks again.
And maybe before anybody comments on that or other questions, we've got about 6 or 7 questions so far, and so if the comments can be succinct, I know that's a challenge.
Okay, I'll just speak to that, Bill, and thank you for your comments. I think that, in identifying sort of some of our short-term deliverables, the engagement strategy is on that list of short-term deliverables, because I agree that 2010 is way too long away, and we do need to have community-level meetings before that, I should say. And there's a number of mechanisms to do that, and so we've got some ideas. I'm sure others do. And so I think that, for example, DFO always has fall dialogue sessions. We have, advisory processes. We've got First Nations have processes. So there's a number of different processes. And I mean, yeah, I could kind of, brainstorm them right now. But I think it's better for us to kind of sit down, think it through, and propose something for comment and feedback. But I think I would like to leave you with the promise that I absolutely agree that we need to keep the momentum going, and we fully intend to through a number of different mechanisms.
I think table 11 is next and 18 is waiting.
Yes, thank you. Des Nobles. It's a question for Rebecca. First of all, I'd like to know how you're going to address the questions that are in the question box out there. How are those going to be answered? Is there some way that you're going to get those answers out to folks? And secondly, will travel funding continue for the other opportunities in which to engage in the process prior to next year's forum?
Okay,
I think there's about a dozen questions in the box.
A dozen?
Just in terms of numbers.
Okay. Well, what we wanted to do in making sure that we answered all the questions that were out there is we are or have already developed or in the midst of developing a question and answer document that will be put on the website. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to essentially theme questions or where we can, or address specific ones where they don't fit into kind of a natural theme. so that we can answer those questions. As far as resources go, I think that's when we need to, sit down and talk about kind of the creative ways for us to fund this stuff. It was hard getting travel money this time, and I'm really glad that we did do that. I think it was recommended and something that we accomplished. And it wasn't just DFO. I mean, there was a whole bunch of people that kind of contributed to that success. And so I understand the importance of that continuing. But also I think that in coming to the communities, I'm hoping that there's, and using technology, that we can reduce those types of costs as much as possible so that we can make this initiative affordable and effective. And so I guess it's a multi-part response to that question.
Table 18 and number 7's on deck, and then I'm going to have a web question in between. So.
Hi, my name's Kim Wright, and I'm with the Living Ocean Society. Following up on Jen's earlier question, she was asking about the public-private partnership, and I suppose there's a couple of questions around that. I'm wondering how the First Nations partners who are working on this feel about the public-private partnership, how that might play out over time, and whether or not you could foresee any conflicts of interest, given that some of the private partners might also be stakeholders.
I'll take the first stab at that. Yeah. First Nations will take public money, we'll take private money. As long as it's money. It's an interesting question, and it really gets down to, and I can't speak for any one community, and I think that's where the answers lie. We went through the same kind of issue on the terrestrial planning side several years ago. How does it look optically? How does it fit in with the community's principles and morals? And I don't mean to pick on anybody, taking big forestry company money when we're going to make a land use plan that's going to put 75% of our territory into protection. So, I mean, it's up to the communities to decide. I think they all have their own policies around that, and it's best to contact those communities. But I'm certain that communities would love to sit down and start having those conversations. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if Alex or Art have anything else to add.
Thank you. It could be a case-by-case situation, but from our perspective, if there is funds on the table, but if the terms or conditions of those funds put a shadow on our Constitution or our title case, or aren't in line with our own values and principles, then we just say no. That's it. And we got to be clear about that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's about all I would add as well. I know that there are certain sources that have been encouraging First Nations to take money to do various things, and in many of those cases, First Nations say no. If it compromises the decision at the end of the day, I think you can be guaranteed the First Nation won't take the money. So public money is another matter. We think that they owe it to us. So.